guys, welcome to Sunrise Extra Thursday. We are talking housing,
Was that
rent.
true?
No, it's
Yes.
about the day of the week. Tomorrow's gonna be like
It's close. Yes, exactly. Okay, we are talking about housing and rent prices, and the pandemic, of course, changing a lot of things when it comes to the value of property, where you want to live, how you're working. And we did a story today. Our reporter Bryant Clerkley did a story on rent prices, and not surprisingly, in the core of kind of downtown, where it used to be the priciest to live,
Right.
rents are dipping a little bit. Still expensive to live downtown. Let's watch his story and then we'll talk about it.
So we're seeing a shift in renter preferences toward more suburban areas, less built up areas.
CoStar Group managing analyst Steve Basham says downtown Portland has become a lot less popular to live in during the pandemic. These were the areas where rental prices were once the highest.
And you're not really getting that much bang for your buck when you're not commuting to your job and maybe all the restaurants and the bars and the clubs and everything that make downtown living appealing. When all that is closed, renters are finding it doesn't really make sense to continue paying these high prices.
As more people move out of the downtown area, Basham says rents there have dropped about 6% from the start of 2020 to the end of 2020. Apartment List has an average one bedroom in Portland costing around $1,120. Meanwhile, their data shows rent elsewhere in the metro area is rising. 7 out of the 10 largest cities in the metro area are listed with prices going up compared year to year. That includes Vancouver, Gresham, Hillsborough, and Lake Oswego. A one bedroom on average in Vancouver will cost you about $1,180. In Hillsborough, you're looking at $1,370. And over in Lake Oswego, that's $1,550. The main reason the suburbs in more rural areas have become more popular, people want more space. And unlike the urban core, there isn't as much new construction, giving landlords more room to raise rent.
So not only do you have a lot of new people going there looking for those apartments, but you don't really have that release valve of new construction to take up all that new demand.
So that is rents. The Oregonian just did an article with the new numbers from the RMLS saying Portland homes for sale have now dropped to the lowest level ever recorded. We only have a 3-week supply of housing inventory before everything would be zeroed out if we waited for all the sales. And one housing expert calls it a crisis now, where boy, it is a seller's market. You know, I mean, it's been like this for years where there's multiple offers coming in, but yeah, people are flocking to the suburbs now, both renters and home buyers.
You know, the expert there was talking about the pandemic, but I have heard so many people saying that the protests downtown have also scared them away. You know, we've done stories with people who live down there in those high rises, and they're like back in the thick of it. Tear gas is seeping into my building, and I mean, it was just a mess. And people just don't want to deal with it anymore. And the businesses, some of them are leaving. Every time I go down there, something is boarded up, and it just makes me sad.
Yeah.
We had protests downtown. We also had riots downtown all summer long. And you're right, Brenda, not just the people that live down there, but we heard from business owners who said, obviously, yes, COVID made life difficult for them, and it made them shut their doors at the beginning of the spring last year. But they did try to reopen in the summer, and those riots led a lot of those business owners down there to shut up shop again.
Yeah.
It is that movement where you're seeing people don't want to leave Oregon, or people don't want to leave the Portland metro area necessarily, all right? People like living here.
Absolutely.
But it's not as desirable to live in the core anymore. And you're seeing those people head out.
Yeah, and a lot of people want, you know, this work from home movement, and a lot of offices now are kind of changing their thinking. And, you know, when enough people get vaccinated, they're going to be doing like a hybrid model of, you know, work from home maybe 3 days a week, come into the office 2 days a week. The offices will be different. We're working on a whole series about that. But this property expert in the Oregonian article is talking about, the suburbs. People want more living and yard space. I mean, now this pandemic has kind of showed us, hey, it's pretty nice to be able to sit in a chair, outside, have some balcony space or some yard. Maybe you want a Peloton bike, room for like a little workout area because gyms are closed. A lot of like access to trails or outdoor parks is getting people into a bidding war.
When I first moved to Portland, I was working at a television station in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, because I was a LSU grad for graduate school, and then I came back here. My parents actually, because I was still working, found a little place in Goose Hollow, right near the station, and for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath back in 1989, it was like $600 or something like that. So I came back. I do like urban living, and so when I was like maybe 4 years ago, I wanted to live downtown again, so I did. I think rent prices then in 2014 were about $2,200 for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. And then I think the last time I rented, it was close to $2,600, and we just bought a house, and the mortgage is way less than the rent was. So yeah, I don't know how anybody affords to live here. It is very, very expensive.
Our young producers were talking about this just now, talking about their 1-bedroom apartments and how they're more expensive than the homes that some of our older staff members live in.
Mortgage payments, yeah.
Rod, I've been here 20 years, and when I got here, I was very interested in the whole Vancouver/Portland setup, because it's similar to where I grew up in Philadelphia, where a lot of people live in South Jersey, and they make that commute over the bridges to get downtown to Philadelphia. But the word I had from everyone when I moved here was, it's going to be cheaper if you want to live in Vancouver. You can work over here and live there, and it's going to be cheaper. Obviously, you found that to be the case 20 years ago yourself. And are you still finding that that's the best deal out there?
Well, I think, when I moved here in 1999, I spent one day, I had 2 days, a 2-day trip to find a house. Had 2 dogs, had to have a house. So I spent one day with a realtor in Beaverton and one day in Vancouver. And at that time, it was unquestionably cheaper what you could get in Clark County, and that's why I ended up living over there. It seems to me, I think I'm correct when I say that difference in prices has closed over the years, but some things haven't. Our utilities, generally speaking, still cheaper. Water is practically free to what some people in Oregon pay. Utilities, I mentioned that. Taxes, still cheaper. So I know when we got married 6 years ago, I, did some checking because my wife is from Gresham, and I just penciled out some things, and I found that for me personally, taxes, utility, everything else, it would have been almost 10 grand more a year to live in Oregon. And I said, no, thank you.
Well, I think, because we were looking before we moved to Clackamas County, we looked in Washington County and in Clark County. And just this summer, we were finding that the prices over there, you got more for your money, even still. Yeah.
And you're near the weatherman.
The best ever.
I was laughing, Rob, when he talked about water is practically free in Clark County, because it just made me think of, sometimes I'll say at home to the boys, like, don't waste that water. And then they'll smartly say, as 13-year-olds, water's free, Dad. And then I say calmly, the hell it is. And then I shove the water bill in their face.
Right? That's one thing about the city of Portland.
Our water prices have come up, but there's still nothing like. There was that, I don't mean to call anybody out, Commissioner Randy Leonard, but there was that one period of time where it seemed like every time Multnomah County wanted some money, they raised the water bill.
Yeah.
Subliminal Rod Hill.
And it was like, whoa. Okay.
Yeah, so right now,
water is so expensive.
If your household makes over 100 grand, so if one person makes 50 and the other person makes 50, that's 100. If your household makes over 100 grand, you are paying. Multnomah County has the highest taxes for that income in the country now after this last election. Wow. And so a lot of people are leaving Multnomah County. They want to be here still and see, our beautiful city and all that stuff. But now maybe you don't have to drive downtown to go to the office or into Portland city limits, and you're working from home, and you don't, I don't want to pay all those taxes for a tiny house when I can get a bigger house and a yard for less. So it's kind of interesting.
Although, real quick, it is interesting because new home construction, though, have you guys noticed this? The model of building smaller homes, I think, is taken off like wildfire. If you look at the new home construction, at least in Clark County, a lot of these what I call the Archie, all in the family model, where it's like row housing, bum, 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 bum.
Yeah, and they're all smashing them together, exactly.
I can't talk about rent without thinking of that political campaign back east. The rent is too damn high. That's just what plays over and over in my head. That guy was hilarious.
Yeah, exactly. I was just seeing somebody, Rhonda.
Yes.
Rhonda Thompson-Jones, thanks for watching this morning. She says, we just moved here 3 years ago and bought a house in Vancouver. It's way cheaper. We rented in Portland, and we pay less now for a house. And our reporter, Bryant, I saw him weighing in. He was the one that did the story. He says, I prefer urban living as well. I'm actually moving into a bigger apartment this spring. There's a lot of deals in the Pearl District right now, I imagine.
We're also hearing from Renee Robertson, and I accepted a Facebook update earlier this week, and I found today that I had a hard time finding our KGW Facebook page the way I normally go about it. So I'm there now. I'm seeing all your comments, and man, Renee Robertson's comment jumped out to me. She says she's the viewer that watches every morning from Panama.
Oh, that's right.
Good morning in Panama.
Yeah, good morning.
What do you think, Rod? Just throw out a number for me. Play along, would you? What do you think she pays a month for rent in Panama? American dollars.
American dollars? I could be totally wrong on this.
Yes.
I'm going to say she pays $214.
$214, you said?
Yeah, I'm going cheap.
He thinks it's really cheap.
You're $5,800 shy about. She says
I said I could be totally wrong.
She says their house in Panama, Renee says, is $6K a month. $6K a month. She says, thankfully, the rent is covered by her husband's company. We joke that we've put enough in our landlord's pockets to send his kids all through college.
Seriously.
I want to see a picture of this
We need more
place.
details on this house, Renee.
Yes, how many swimming pools do you have? I want to know.
$6K a month.
That's nutty. Willie Huey, good morning to you. He says, my company wanted me to move to California just to break even. I would need a $20,000 a year salary increase for the San Fran office. Yeah, super spendy.
I would have guessed more than 20,000, to be quite honest with you.
You can work remotely and still work for them, Sheila Speck says,
says it's the same in Washington County. Spendy, spendy.
Sheila says when we bought our house, the payments were less than rent, and that's what that housing expert said. That's how it's supposed to be. You know, when that is the attraction to buying a house, is not only can you paint the walls and do whatever you want, but yeah, you're depending on what you put down, your mortgage payment hopefully should be lower than rent.
I love this. Jennifer Taft, did you see her comment?
Yes.
She says, I noticed that our PSU daughter found a great, cute place in Goose Hollow. Let's get Bryant Clerkley a bigger lanai to talk to us on.
I know you swished on there.
Well, let me get to Renee's response real quick. Brian Matthews, our director, says Renee just jumped in. She did. She says, ha ha ha, we only have one pool. We knew you had a pool though, Renee. She says, ha ha, we only have one pool here in Panama. There are 4 bedrooms in that house, 5 bathrooms.
Oh, there you go.
We're talking about
5 bathrooms.
Hey,
I mean, is that a 4,000 square foot home?
Okay.
5,000 square feet, Renee? She's paying $6,000 by the way a month for her place in Panama.
I gave you the price for a half a bath place. She had 5 bathrooms.
Right. There was one more comment that I wanted to share, and then it was I had to scroll back up. Oh, Terry Hogenkamp. Good morning, Terry. Terry's always chiming in here on Facebook during Sunrise Extra. So this is a step back in time. She says she got her first apartment back in 1978, 20th and Lovejoy, there in Northwest Portland. I know the spot, right? Love that spot. She says rent back then in 78 was for the 600 square foot studio was $165 a month. But we are going back in time a bit. What is that, 43 years now? She says it's all condos now and priced up apartments.
Yeah, Freddie Weaver says, I want to move back home, but it's too expensive. I can't afford it compared to what I have here in Houston. So hello in
Texas a lot cheap. Well, the Midwest in general and down into Texas. Anna says, and tell me if you've experienced this. I have. I looked on Zillow, and the house I grew up in Southwest Portland is over $800,000 now. It's crazy. And I remember when we got married and we sold the house I had lived in for 20 years, I'm like, I couldn't afford to buy that house. I could sell it, but I sure as heck couldn't afford to rebuy it.
Right.
You know, it's crazy. Yeah.
It's sometimes you guys probably watch those shows where the buy it or list it or sell it. I don't know what the heck they're called. HGTV. I don't watch them. Mia watches them all the time. I see them sometimes in passing through the TV room. But when they're in other parts of the country, like the Carolinas, you see these homes
Like
listed
a
for
mansion for 200 grand or something.
Whoa. I'm like, what year was this episode filmed in?
Well, I always want to know, like, what city is this? Because, you know, like Chip and Joe, I don't want to live in Waco, Texas.
Right.
But there, you got deals down there. Exactly.
Absolutely.
But I've talked to Rod about that. I mean, eventually, because we live here, this is a desirable part of the country, bottom line. I mean, because we live here, we do have the option at some point in our lives, if we want to, we can leave here and go buy someplace, somewhere else for a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
Which is what Californians have been doing for decades, right?
Yeah, so Beth Goodman Kaiser says, you all have rent control. To raise rents is a long, slow process now, thanks to what she calls liberal leadership. She says they have hobbled the ability of those who look to real estate as a means of income. That's actually something that I have heard from a number of people who are landlords and they do want income property. They're like, not in Portland. They put too many constraints on us. It is not worth it because they're worried and say that they are not able to get rid of bad renters.
Evicting people who are, legitimately bad is very difficult.
Yeah, it's a tough topic though, right? I mean, certainly affordable housing is something that
we need.
We need.
Yes.
For those,
100%.
It's a tough topic. Yeah.
It really is.
Rhonda Thompson-Jones trying to help me out. She says, Drew, the name of that show you're talking about is Love It or List It.
Love It or List It.
Rhonda.
Yeah.
We're also hearing like two different sides of that story of we moved and in one case, things got more expensive. In this other case, things got less expensive. Michelle chimes in. She says she's now in Atlanta. She's paying $2,000 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment in Atlanta. So Atlanta, she's saying, pretty darn expensive.
Well,
but then we have Autumn Murphy. 5.5 years ago, she says, my husband and I moved from Portland to Northeast Ohio, where we were living in twice the square footage and paying a third of what we were paying here in Portland.
I believe it.
Hey, here's a shout out to Callis County. Robert says it blows my mind that people are willing to pay thousands and thousands. Got a 2-bedroom house for $800 in Callis County.
Wow.
There you go. Karen says we are a manager. It is so hard being the middleman and making tenants and owners happy. I bet it is, girl. Wow.
With all due respect to Callis County, I like going out there. I like visiting there. We played a lot of baseball in Callis County, but the reason I couldn't live there, or wouldn't live there, is because I worked down here. And I can't imagine making that drive, right, from Longview or Kelso down here to Portland every day. And really, that was the reason 15 years ago, my wife, who's from Estacada, you know, she was pushing hard for that Estacada lifestyle. And I said, Mia, you can't expect me to wake up at, even earlier and drive from Estacada into downtown Portland every day. So I convinced her to, let's just get to 205.
Make a compromise.
The second exit, and we'll call it good.
Compromise. Yeah, good school.
Did you guys read Betsy's? Okay, because I was looking and reading some other stuff here on the stream. Betsy says, I pay $2,450 for a 1,300 square foot townhouse. I think the very most I would pay here is $2,600. So that's her upper limit of the budget. It's like no more than that.
Jennifer Taft saying everything is expensive. That's why we moved from Hawaii. $8 for a gallon of milk in Hawaii. Have you guys ever vacationed in Hawaii and you go to the grocery store for that first time?
Expensive.
Yes.
And let me tell you, when we do that, I have sandwiches with no ketchup, no mustard, no mayo, because I ain't paying like $8 for a little thing of mustard. I ain't doing it.
Leave it in the Airbnb fridge.
If you think Hawaii is bad, we took a trip and we went to Turks and Caicos, so it's even farther out there.
Crazy.
And it was absolutely nuts. What is one of the really cheap wines? Oh, it's Barefoot. You know, you can get it at Winco for like $5. It was like almost $20. I was like, oh, that was my barometer. I thought I can't afford anything in this grocery store. Right?
Exactly.
Until you went there, Brenda, I thought Turks and Caicos was an imaginary place. Like
Did you?
Yes, I didn't even know that was really a place.
Those like sandals commercials?
And then you're like, I remember the year you went there, and I was like, is she kidding about that?
Yeah,
like,
no.
she's really
that
going to Turks and Caicos?
Water. Oh, so fabulous.
So some of the hottest areas, hottest neighborhoods are in Washington County. Beaverton, the 97229 is the hottest. West Haven, West Sylvan area. Kind of like Raleigh Hills. Somerset West, I'm not sure where that is, had the highest sales activity in 2020. Convenient to Highway 26 and 217. It's close to major employers. There's condos and luxury homes plus new construction out in the burbs.
Burbs.
The burbs.
I never wanted to live in the burbs,
Oh, come on. The burbs are
but
great.
I'm getting there.
I know
Yes.
you are.
I'm
Be a
getting
burb person.
there.
Come on out.
Close, I know.
That's my Midwest
I'm-
mentality growing up for me.
Yeah.
It's like I got to have a yard. Got to have me some space.
I mean, I have a great yard right now. I love our yard, but it's the trash on the streets. It's the property taxes that are going to get jacked up. It's the homeless problem that we just cannot seem to make headway on, and the safety and all that kind of stuff. And just like where our house is, the lot next to us, there's a wonderful couple there. It's a double lot. They have this wonderful yard, and I know soon coming, they're going to move out, and that's going to get divided into two big looming houses looking down onto ours, and then on the other side, like, it could be zoned the way it is, like apartments, and so it's just like, man, do we get out before that happens?
You guys thought about moving to Clark County, right? Because your hubby works in Clark.
My husband, works up there.
5 minutes from where I live.
Right next to you, and he's like, we could save so much money, taxes and all that stuff, and I'm like,
It's funny, maybe our viewers can weigh in on this, because I've noticed this during my time here, that there is like sort of this this feeling amongst Portlanders about not moving to Vancouver. Like, that's not the same thing. Like, I'm from Portland, I'm from Oregon, I don't want to live in Vancouver.
I don't want the commute, and
At this hour, it's not bad, though.
No.
When we grew up,
20
where I
minutes
grew
flat.
up in Philadelphia, like South Jersey, there was it was the same thing. It was all one and the same. You didn't judge or have any different feelings about living there on that side of the bridge versus in the city
Bridge
of
and
Philadelphia.
tunnel.
It was sort of just like, oh, it's all one and the same. Here, there is definitely a separation in terms of feeling.
same with like New York and San Francisco. That's why they call it, the bridge and tunnel people.
I want to sneak in one more real quick.
call me
Robert
a
Curley Jr. says, I work for Carl's and JB Towing. I drive into Portland every day, and it's horrible. $2,500 for a studio under the 405 bridge. Crazy.
Do you see Eric Patterson? Is this our Eric Patterson?
Probably.
Yeah, our photojournalist. I paid $245 a month for a studio in Northwest Portland when he moved here in
He had a
'94.
great spot, though.
$245. That sounds.
No, that's when he first got here.
1994.
Yeah.
Oh, in '94,
Yeah.
And then he owned a spot down there, but that's a great price.
Yeah, 28 years ago.
Sheesh.
Y'all were born too late.
Jeff Lucas didn't win in Powerball.
Oh.
Sorry, Jeff.
Yeah, you guys, check your tickets. $1 million ticket was sold in Oregon. Maryland got the jackpot, but someone is $1 million winner.
$1 million.
So check it.
They could pay rent for how many months? No, just kidding.
Yeah, exactly. Good point. Good
Jennifer
point.
Taft has you living mistakenly, Nina, in East County. Nina does not live in East County. In fact, her address is. No, I won't give
I
you
live
her
on the
address.
east side.
Yeah, you live
I
on the
do.
east side, but you don't live in East County. That's
Well,
what
that's what that's called.
she says.
right?
Anyway, her
East
comment was,
Portland
I think
County?
that
she says, Nina, if you
farther
live in
out.
East County, you live in the burbs.
The burbs.
Which I would agree with that, but Nina does not live in East County. She lives in
no,
the city.
I'm inner.
All right, y'all. I got to bow
Yeah.
out here.
We
I've got
done?
a
All right,
Today Show
guys.
cut in coming up.
Check those Powerball tickets. We'll see you tomorrow.